Well, let's try this again. I'm Rudy Maxa. I'm a travel journalist and a broadcaster. You may know me from uh, public radio's Savvy Traveler. You may know my TV shows called Rudy Maxa's World. I have about 98 episodes on the world's great destinations. And I've written a lot of articles for National Geographic Traveler magazine. But today you know me as your man in Montenegro. Montenegro is a little country below Croatia along the Adriatic coast. It's a beautiful country. The coastline is stunning. I'm going to show you a little bit of it in just a moment. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Montenegro. Let me turn the camera around so you can see. This is a little piece of the Adriatic Sea. Now, if you're Norwegian, you might liken these things to fjords. There are 4 or 5 of these bays that cut off the Adriatic and cut into the coastline of Montenegro. I got to be careful about going to the right because there's a lot of sun. Uh, but this is one of the most, probably the most famous town for visiting in Montenegro. Kotor is spelled Kotor. It's a walled city. Now, you may be familiar with Dubrovnik, which is sort of the walled city of the world. This is pretty impressive. It's not as big as Dubrovnik, but let me show you. Here are the mountains the stones came from that built it. And the walls that go around it, if you can walk the walls actually, are 4.5 kilometers long. So if you decide to take a walk along these walls, take some water, and if it's the summer, take more water and watch the heat. But this fort was built from stone this is limestone from up in the hills. Much like Croatia, much like Dubrovnik, these hills sort of seal in the town and keep it protected from enemies. And there have been a lot of people who have run this place over the years. There were Romans who I'm going to walk across and show you something of the thickness of the walls. There were Romans who ran this city. Then there were Greeks. Then there were Celts. Then there were Venetians. During World War II, Italy took over. Yugoslavia, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. But I would tell you, these very impressive walls that go for 4.5 kilometers were mainly built by the Venetians. So I'm coming to the edge of one wall here, and I'm going to show you the moat on the side. This connects to the off to the left here, right out to the Adriatic. But you can see the length of the wall here, and maybe the thickness if I zoom in a little down at the end there. But I also want to show you something up in the hills here. I think I can expand the camera to show you a chapel way up there, if you can see it. There it is. And you can't see it, but there's a fort, maybe you can, even higher, flying a flag. Let me see, it really gets blurry, but it's up there at the top. You may be able to see the flag. I'm trying to hold the camera as still as possible. The wall extends around the old town, which I'm standing on now, and then goes all around this enormous area here. Okay, so we've got all these guys vying for this piece of land. It has been fought over for years. In the old town, only about 900 people still live here, which isn't bad, because Dubrovnik is probably the largest walled city, certainly in this part of the world, and it only has like about 300 people living in it. What's happened is residents have left the old walled stone homes they have here in order to rent them out to tourists. You can see the climate here by this palm tree. I'm standing here at a little after 6 in the evening on July 2nd, 2021, and it is still hot in the sun. The recommendation for visiting Montenegro is don't come between June and August. However, because of COVID, tourism is only now just returning. I'm going to go out to something prettier like the river, the bay here of Kotor. Kotor is not crowded. There are 7 or 8 hotels in the city. I just passed one 4-star hotel coming in here that looked very, very nice. But most people don't stay in the city because there aren't enough hotels. The Tourism Bureau would like that to change. People come and spend 3 or 4 hours walking around the old town. There are plenty of restaurants. Some people bring their boats here. You can see probably over there the tops of some sailboats. Let me see, can I get it? There you can see the masts. And unfortunately, at the bottom here, you'll see a modern building, which doesn't really tell you the story of the wall. But the town is basically much like Dubrovnik. Stone, narrow alleys, winding streets. The city walls, by the way, that I'm standing by right here, they started building them in the 9th century. These are old stones. If you want to go up to that church I showed you up at the top of the hill, it's about 1,300 steps up. It takes about a half an hour from where I'm standing now, near the entrance to the place. The Castle of San Giovanni is about 1,350 steps up. I'm sorry, the 15th century church is called Our Lady of Health because it was supposedly a place that could heal people from the plague in the old days. Yugoslavia, has had a tumultuous history. Sorry. And Montenegro was broken off from Yugoslavia. It finally became independent from Serbia in 2006, and it joined NATO in 2017. There are a lot of languages. There actually is a language called Montenegrin, which I had never heard of until I got here. But most people speak Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian, and Albanian. They're very similar, and people from, say, Croatia coming over the border here can speak very well with folks who live here in Montenegro. It's very easy for Americans to visit. You can fly in here from on Air Serbia from Belgrade. I flew in on KLM from Amsterdam. All you need is your vaccination paper and a passport. No COVID tests required as I broadcast live on July 2nd, 2021. But keep that in mind if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook later, those rules change. One reason it's so crowded here in June and August is cruise ships. Massive cruise ships come in here, if you can believe it. And of course, cruise ships aren't really running much anymore. So right now, the town is very pleasantly spacious. Should I put it that way? I mean, I'm up here on the rooftop of part of the walls, and these are the first people I've seen coming up here now at 6:15 in the afternoon almost. What else can I tell you? There is no fee to come in here through the city walls. There is, if you like cats, there are a lot of cats here. So many cats that there's a cats museum here. But unfortunately, I was told today that the cat museum is closed for the year. The owner hopes to reopen next year. I asked if there are a bunch of cats in there, and he said, and I was told no, there are a lot of pictures of cats. But you can find plenty of cats running around the streets wild here. Montenegro has nowhere near the recognizability of nearby Croatia. I drove from Dubrovnik here to Kotor, I think in a little less than 2 hours. You can rent a car. It's a drop-off charge is expensive if you drop it off at the Tivat, T-I-V-A-T, the nearby Tivat airport. But if you can return it to Dubrovnik, right now rental car prices are about $23 a day. And it's a beautiful drive all along the water, very serpentine roads, but very well-paved, two-lane, very modern roads, lit at night, and a lot of lovely scenery, both on the water and off the water. And you will be bounded by these amazing rock limestone mountains the entire time. I would put Montenegro high on the list. I am staying in nearby Tivat, T-I-V-A-T. There are more hotels there. There are some very luxurious hotels. It's not a particularly distinguished city. However, I'm staying on the port of Montenegro in Tivat, and the port is loaded with every brand name shop. You'll think you're going through Heathrow Airport or Charles de Gaulle Airport, and yachts that beggar you can't believe they're that big. I priced the yacht. I looked on a website that gives you yacht prices. I priced a yacht that went for 149 million euros. So add 25 to 30% for dollars. A couple of years ago, I saw one, of course, with a helicopter on it today. The riches here are probably a lot of Russian oligarchs. Russian is widely spoken here as well, as is English. You'll have no trouble speaking English. But Russians love this place. I have a feeling they bring some of their money here and they buy very expensive and very luxurious condos, particularly on the waterfront in Tivat, what's called Porto Montenegro. You will see extraordinary yachts here. You will hear a lot of people speaking Russian. You'll see a lot of men here with their nieces, and you can draw your own conclusions to that. I wish I could take you down to the old town, but we did a test beforehand, and to say the Wi-Fi is spotty is to say an understatement. We tried to broadcast this from down in the old town, but I couldn't do it. I thought the scenery was more interesting than the old stone buildings, which are very interesting, but we couldn't do both. I wanted to walk down the steps and show you some of the narrow streets of Old Town, but it is not possible technologically. We have determined that. At any rate, I would put Montenegro on my list, put Croatia on your list. You can actually do both. You could actually drive in from Croatia here, a 2-hour drive, and do a day trip here. Maybe stay a night somewhere and relax. There are many restaurants along the seaside, or along the side of the Adriatic here. Needless to say, seafood is the predominant menu here. Great seafood, great olive oil, and great wines. In fact, I'm going to be bringing you a report probably Monday or Tuesday, uh, or I may at least record it and put it up on social media later, from one of the most prominent wineries here. You may be familiar with the Amman Resort line of resorts, AMAN. They're some of the most expensive and finest in the world. This is the wine of the Amman Resorts. It's grown by an acquaintance, and he's going to do a tasting for us, walk me through the vineyards, etc. The white wine is delightful. You could have a dry or not so dry white wine, a Chardonnay. The red is equally delightful. Both Croatia and Montenegro are known for their inexpensive wines, although I can't remember ever seeing a Montenegrin wine on a store in the United States. But if you like wine, this is one place to come. If you like rugged, stunning scenery, and as I say, I mean, if you look at that church up there, I know it's hard for you to see. Let me try to zero in on it again. I mean, how they built that thing up there in what my kids call the olden days is beyond me. It's beyond me. Let me see. Do I have it? I've got it. Oh, there it is right there. There it is. Hang on. Sorry about the jittery camera. But it's an iPhone and it's got it. There it is. That's amazing. And again, the wall, you can sort of see the wall coming into the left and the right of it. The wall goes way up into the hill. Above it, it snakes up even further up to a fort way up there. Walking the wall would be quite an achievement. I would love to do it. I don't have the time and I don't have enough water, but it'd be a great thing to do. At any rate, put Montenegro on your list. I think it's underappreciated by Americans, and the food is great. It's relatively inexpensive. Actually, the cost of living here is about 43% less than it costs to live in the United States. You can get great hotel rooms for $140, $130 in very luxurious small hotels. So it's well priced. The menus are well priced. Probably a little cheaper than Croatia as well. And of course, you've got the stunning Adriatic. This is just a little piece of the Adriatic. There are about 4 of these bays connected by rather narrow passageways, which, as I said at the start of this, gives you an idea of a fjord, or gives you the suggestion of a fjord. But anyway, between the water, the mountains, the food, the people are lovely. The prices are good. Let's put Montenegro on the list and keep it in mind for future visits. I'm Rudy Maxa. Check out maxatours.com if I don't unfortunately yet run a tour to Montenegro or Croatia, but maybe someday. But we can show you some other small luxury tours that are very well priced elsewhere in Europe. And if you want to subscribe to my newsletter, just go to maxatours.com/newsletter. maxatours.com/newsletter. It's free. Give me your last and first name and your email, and we won't pester you. Only write it every 2 weeks. And it's sort of gossipy. I'll write about Montenegro. I'll write about my favorite restaurants in Dubrovnik in the upcoming one. maxatours.com/newsweek. Over and out from Kotor, Kotor, Montenegro. Nice to have you here with me today.